Greetings, sailors, and welcome to a slightly belated look at Part 2 and Part 3 of the D-Day mission. It's kind of a little bit almost done. I think I'm recording this the day before the patch hits EU, so yeah, theoretically, somebody might, in the evening I'm recording this, be able to play the part 3 of the mission one last time, but I really am doing this just more for having a record of it, because some of these past things we've had, you know, they're kind of one and done, and so it's nice to have some kind of memory of them in video form, because some of them are fairly interesting missions. This, however, this is part 2, where you're playing the part of the German defenders, and to be honest, I think this was the weakest of the 3. It did feature you actively getting to use the airdropped minefields. It also featured 4 what would you call them, event ships that were added just for the purpose of this mission, and they all had slightly varying sets of stats. So like one of them had a really good base range, one of them had a really good rate of fire, you know, one of them was really stealthy, one of them had like the longest range torps, and it was sort of a mix and match of the different sort of characteristics that they all could have. But crucially, they all had the same AA capability, and that leads me to possibly the most annoying part of this mission, which was getting 15 aircraft kills. And there is a carrier that shows up, and you also get a star, or got a star, for sinking the carrier as well. But if you sink the carrier too soon, then that's it. You can't do the secondary condition with planes. And because the AA on these things is so crap, you really do have to get that carrier right at the end and hope that you don't run out of time, or that there aren't other ships around left to shoot at you. Because as you can see, you're dealing with a whole bunch of enemy ships. There is also a mechanic in play though, which, and as you can see, is actually, I'm getting a ticking heal now. Whenever people die, you get a Will of the Fallen buff, and that not only gives you a ticking heal, but also increases the base damage of your shells and torpedoes the more people die. So you, like, as there are progressively fewer of you, you get stronger to compensate, which is a nice way of doing it for an operation like this, for a PvE experience, because we don't have that in other ops, and in some other ops it would be actually really very useful. This is one of the event destroyers, but I think really any of the German destroyers were probably viable. Maybe not the Z31 so much. That thing was not great. And its AP shells were not that useful, but the regular tech tree Germans, and some of the premiums as well, had the advantage of being able to use hydro and smoke. Some of these event ones had smoke. I don't think any of them had hydro. That was another thing that differentiated them all. They all had different sets of consumables going on, but again, nothing to buff your AA. There was really only the option of trying to get some AA skills on a captain, and they don't help that much. So they've actually got a plane now buzzing around overhead, being pelted by this Jervis. We took out the Dido earlier, which acts as a block on being able to do any of the minefields, which you do kind of need to do in order to stop the transports coming through later. Although it's not even just the transports, it's the ships themselves, the enemy warships that you need to take care of. I don't think there were transports in this one, actually. No, I think this is supposed to be like the softening up stage before the LSTs show up. Anyhow, I got quite close to dying in this one, but managed to just about manage not to. I've also got a crawling smoke, so I'm going to use that. You don't get many of them. I don't know if any of them had static smoke. I really can't remember. I did, at the time this mission was running, and I'd obviously I've been planning to do this video for a while, and then I've been rubbish. So here we are, lumping the whole thing into one video instead of parts 2 and 3 having their own separate videos, but I did consider doing a breakdown of the 4 individual special destroyers, and then I thought, meh. it's not that interesting. I think this was the one that had... I honestly can't remember. Was it the best rate of fire or the best shell damage? I can't remember. The one that had the best rate of fire and the one that had the best shell damage were not the same ship. And you also had, I think the stealthiest one had the like 12-kilometer torpedoes or 10 kilometers or whatever it was, and the rest of them had like 6 and 4 kilometers. So there was a real mix going on. It was kind of interesting to see the different play styles that could be achieved of varying the stats of what was essentially otherwise the same class of ship. So I wonder if that might have been a test bed for something as well, or if that was just some extra thing a dev thought of to spice life up a bit. Because in the first and third parts they gave us, what was it, a Galissoniere? That's basically, again, a kind of a rental ship, but I think it's just a regular Galissoniere rather than having anything funky about its stats. I've seen plenty of them in normal operations as well, so I don't know if they're confined to just PvE, or if people were also taking them into PvP. But anyway, so there we go, there's the carrier just popping up. Honestly, you can see the brackets designations behind the destroyer's name, T and A, and it's the same for the first part of the operation. Certain destroyers were more artillery focused and others were more torpedo focused, but of course you don't get to see any stats, so you don't necessarily know what difference that makes to the ships themselves. Maybe it was torpedo range versus, you know, rate of fire or shell damage or things like that. They certainly all had guns and they all had torpedoes, and they would happily use both. So yeah, this Benson, for instance, is quite happily plinking away, but that possibly does seem like a slower rate of fire than one might expect from a Benson, which would be what you would think the torpedo focused ship might have, but who knows, without seeing some I'm sure there's some way to pull the data from the client, but I'm not that interested to go and find the exact numbers. I don't think it would really add anything to a video. Anyway, there's an attempt there to torpedo it, but it came out of its smoke, unfortunately. So I'm just trying to beat it, and of course I got the help of having the heal going on, but yeah, there's plenty of other ships left to deal with, and there's only 3 of us now, but we've also got multiple minefields going on. And also, yes, the Nelson and the Queen Elizabeth have shown up, which is the other thing. So we've not only got the CV to deal with, but the 2 battleships as well. And I can't remember if the battleships were one of the secondary objectives. I'm not actually sure if they are. But obviously the battleships will do the most damage to the coastal guns, so you kind of just have to kill everything. And especially if you want to get that carrier objective. So it really, like, this was the weakest, I think, just because of the carrier objective, having to kill those planes, having to wait until you kill the planes before you can actually kill the carrier, and you've got a lot of stuff to wade through to get to the carrier as well. Anyway, there goes that Huron. We actually had a Z31 in this match, having said, don't take that, it's all very good. Well, it's a bit late now, because obviously this is all in the past, but who knows, they might do this event again at some point. It's not like this was a specific, like, obviously the anniversary of D-Day, but, you know, there's one of those every year. It wasn't like, oh, this is the, I'm in danger of doing some maths in my head here. What number of years would it be? 80? Was it the 80th anniversary? Yes? I'm going to look very foolish if I'm wrong about that, but anyway, so just the fact that it's D-Day means we might see this again at some point. And it is interesting to see mines back in an operation and being used sort of both against you, but also, you know, you being able to use them in return in some form. So it does make me wonder if we'll maybe see either an adjustment to existing operations or some new operation that incorporates these as a mechanic, perhaps. They do quite frequently use these event operations, which I'm sure I said in the part 1 video, to test out various mechanical things. So yeah, I'm sure this one's no exception. But they don't seem to often translate to, what am I trying to say? They don't seem to often be purely to test out new things for PvE. It's usually things for the game as a whole. Anyway, there goes the Queen Elizabeth. That just leaves us with needing to kill one more plane. We've saved all the forts, so we just need to get one more plane and get this carrier down. And in this particular game, well, we're actually going to manage to do that. I think this and the next game, they're both 5 stars because I figured that would be the more interesting thing to show, rather than do it live, which is what I did last time. And I sort of planned to do it differently this time, and then you know, got the relevant games, and then was just rubbish and haven't made the video until now. So well done me. But I think my rubbishness is well known at this point. Oh, hello Z31. So yeah, we just need one more plane kill, and we kind of need to get the plane kill like now before we kill the Furious, but there we go, we actually did just manage it, and I think it was me that got the kills. So there goes the CV, and that triggers the end. So yeah, it really was that requirement to get those plane kills that was by far the most irritating thing, and I suspect the average number of stars in this one will have been lower than the other two, which were a bit less onerous, I think. Not that these have particularly been hard to pass, like outright failures I think for all 3 operations were relatively uncommon, but I think that was probably the hardest to get 5 stars, but not necessarily hard in a good way, more like hard in an irritating way. So we're on to the 3rd stage of the operation. We're back to Schnellboots and having to deal with those, but now there's the twist that we have to actually, as shown by the markers on the minimap, go rescue the crews of some of the boats from the previous operation. So I don't know if this is sort of supposed to be oh look, another minefield. It's supposed to be sort of the operations sort of laid out on a timeline, or maybe I'm just overthinking it. I don't know. But this one ended up being very, very similar to the first operation, and especially having a destroyer that can take care of the minefields, or even a cruiser that has these ship overboard, which is probably some more elegant way of saying that. But you know, the ship launched depth charges rather than the airdropped ones, which can only take out a couple of mines at a time. And if everybody's got those, you can't really deal with the minefields, and if you can't deal with the minefields, then you're going to not be able to save enough transports to get all the requirements. So yeah, that was one of my focuses this particular game, just because I was the only destroyer, and I can't remember if offhand any of our allied cruisers will have had. I think some of them will. I think some will, but I'm not 100% sure. So that's another minefield cleared, and another wave of Schnellboots, which I don't know if it's... I think it's just... I think they were just a bit juddery. I think they just moved that fast that the animation wasn't... I don't know. It was like too fast for the game engine or something. I don't know. I think I was speculating in the first video about how fast they go, and it must be pretty fast. I mean, bearing in mind that the ships in-game already have some ludicrous multiplier, they're already going way faster than they would in real life for the given speed in-game. It's something like thousands of times faster. I can't even remember, but it's a fairly large multiplier, so goodness knows how fast the Schnell boots are travelling in reality. They're probably like supersonic or something. I don't know. Maybe not that fast, but they're probably still pretty stupidly fast. Anyway, but it is particularly noticeable in the replay, just how sort of jumpy they look. Anyhow, it looks like we got most of the rescuing done. I think there was maybe one left. I don't know. There's only one bar left on the top of the screen now, so I assume we must have gotten them all by this point. There wasn't. I think we've had a mechanic like that before, haven't we? Was it the? It was the Dunkirk operation, wasn't it? If some of the transports got sunk, you could basically save some of the soldiers from the transports, and you had to like sit there in the circle for a little bit whilst you were being pelted by planes, and possibly also having once again Schnell boots coming for you, because the Schnell boots are definitely not a new thing for operations. But yeah, I'd forgotten about that aspect of Dunkirk. But you know, if I really wanted to go back and check, well, happily, you know, I covered that operation on my channel, so you know I do have that record of it. So now we're on to dealing with destroyers, and we actually have to take out some of these for the one of the secondary operations, one of the secondary objectives. And we also now have got the transports to try and save. So once again, gotta deal with the minefields, but also now with things that can actually shoot at them as well. And I'm a little bit alone on this side of the map. There's what looks like a wakeful on the mini-map in the middle of the screen, but no, that's one of the ships that you had to save the crews from earlier. For some reason that one's still showing up on the mini-map, but I don't think the rest are. Not sure why. Handy bit of hydro there, saving me from eating a lot of torpedoes. I'm also taking out quite a lot of the mines, but not enough to clear the minefield. But even if I don't get the entire minefield, hopefully it would be enough to mitigate the damage. But I've actually I was in danger of ramming a mine there. Probably not a good idea, but I've actually slowed down specifically to get those depth charges back, which do have a fairly quick reload, so I think we probably will clear this minefield. Well, I suppose I could say kill the minefield and you would know what I meant, but as it happened, no, I didn't quite get the coverage. Even closer that time. That one had to be scraping the hull paint. But yeah, I managed not to take it. There's this unpleasant moment which I'd actually forgotten about where, yeah, even more torpedoes, but fortunately one of them, the first wave has this nice big gap, and then the second wave has the gap in the middle, so I'm able to just avoid taking any more damage. Fortunately, there goes the minefield as well, and now that just leaves the destroyers in front of me to deal with. We do have plenty of allies left on the other side, in fact most of my allies. The Fiji's kind of in the middle, but I'm a little bit alone on this flank, so I'm quite glad. Like, it doesn't matter that Haida has only got the one torp launcher, it's really the guns and the depth charges that you need for this this operation. But having said that, I did manage one torpedo hit, so it's not like they're totally useless. So yeah, once again, Hydro coming in useful. I've also got these support ships to deal with. I'm not actually sure what their role was. It might just have been like maybe they're delaying minefields, or I don't know. I'm not actually sure what they were for, but anyway, it's an extra thing to sink, so can't really complain about that. Once this is out the way, I will then, well, I've got several things to deal with here. I've got planes dropping on me, I've got these destroyers to deal with, but I will also then have to take out that coastal gun if I want my most of my transports, if not all of my transports, to get through, which again will give us an extra secondary condition. So once again, waiting for the or putting out more depth charges, which it would have been nice if there was a way to like buff the reload of those, if that was one of the what were they called, briefings, orders, I can't even remember, but the things that you could select. I think there was one of them that increased the damage of your depth charges, which is obviously quite useful if you're in the destroyer, but I don't know if there was one that no, I don't think there was. I don't think there was one that actually increased the reload. It would have been quite useful, or decreased the reload rather. So slightly split attention here. I do have to take care of that Z44. I know it's not at least going to immediately torpedo somebody, and Fiji actually gets the kill there. They've come over to this side to give me some assistance, which is quite useful. This mysterious civil ship, I don't know. I really don't know what the purpose of that was. I'm trying to think if there's some like thing at the time that explained what it was there for, but I don't think so. I think it was just a random ship. So there you go. I don't think there was even one on the other side, but maybe there was and I missed it. So just on the off chance it's got some offensive capability, although I don't think it has, but you know. Time to sink that, and then finally we can deal with this coastal gunner. And it's not like I can just sit and shoot at it, because there's planes whizzing around the place as well. Not so many, I think, as the first operation, though. I think they toned it down a bit. Fortunately, I do have the help of the Fiji here. We've lost one of the transport ships, but it looks like 3 are going to get through on each side. And we can afford to lose one more at this point, but as you can see by the circles around them winking out, that means they've arrived at their destination. So yes, we are basically about to get this with 5 stars. There we go, there goes that fort, shooting down even more planes. Not that this is the best placed ship to do that for defending these transports from the air, but it's better than nothing, I suppose. And with that, we got the 5-star run of this one, part 3. So if they do bring this back at some point, which I can't see why they wouldn't, I think it would need some tweaking. And I'm not sure about this 3-part thing that they've done with this set of missions, because the first and the third really are very similar, apart from that whole rescue profile bit. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure why they split it into 3 when maybe it could have been 2, but perhaps there was something else going on, like they were trying out different things with the mines, different characteristics in between each operation. So who knows? Anyway, that is it for this what do I even call this? I don't know. Retrospective at this point, almost, of the part 2 and part 3 of this year's D-Day operations. And like I've said, I think this would be interesting to see in an albeit modified form sometime in the future. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this, you can do all the usual things down underneath it. And of course, as always, stay tuned for more.